Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We've got Larry on his mountaintop surveying the world. Hi, Larry. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, Stuart, just up here trying to see as far as I can where all this is going.
Well, I think the Bible gives us a pretty good clue as to ultimately where this is all going. What have you said something about that Barry had a new Bible code out. What is that about? Let's get into that to start with.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting because of the Paul Manafort trial. And, at the moment they're trying to actually crucify President Trump because Paul Manafort was found guilty on a few counts. Like that had something to do with him and collusion in Russia. Anyway, this is a new one that Barry Rothman just did. It's called Paul Manafort Trial. He says Paul Manafort convicted as the code predicted. And there's 8 words in the matrix, and I'll read those, and a couple of phrases that fit together, which are really interesting. Number 1, P. Manafort. Number 2, conviction. Number 3, Mueller. Number 4, trial. And number 5 is the 2 phrases I'll read together. Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Number 7, Trump. Number 8, threat. So that's really, really interesting. What do you think? And then I'll tell you about an embed that's in the code.
Well, it sounds to me like, it's kind of, you go back and what reminds me of Psalm, I can't remember which one it was. It's back in the 60s when Kennedy was assassinated, and it more or less indicated that, they do a deep search. And the rich men or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, doesn't make any difference. Do a deep search, and they control people that way. And I don't know why it reminded me of that when you said, "Will you sweep away the righteous, or we should be sweeping away the wicked." However, it doesn't appear that that's what's going on. I was watching a very short but very interesting video on YouTube where they said, okay, Trump has the power to get rid of these people, but he's not doing anything. And this is continuing and continuing and continuing. And, it's kind of interesting that the Bible codes are pinpointing all of this stuff. What's the other thing he's got?
Well, what's interesting, down lower in that same code, the Paul Manafort trial, he's got an embedded link in there talking about Project Creator Decoder. And I posted it on my blog today, and the link's there. But what's interesting about this is it seems like somehow they're connected. The Paul Manafort trial and all that's going on, and the sweep away the righteous with the wicked, seems to be dovetailed into another code that he made the comment. He said Obama is massively encoded in the Torah, and it's got 3, sections found in the matrix. Number 1, Barack Obama. Number 2, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Number 3, Pharaoh, king of Egypt again. Now, what's the odds, Stuart, that embedded in the thing about sweep away the righteous with the wicked, and Trump and Mueller and Manafort, his trial and conviction, that you would have Barack Obama seemingly encoded with a link into that, and then two times, Barack Obama is crossed with Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Well, there was a fellow that he was the director of the movie which they did on Kennedy. Can't think of his name right now. Very famous director down in New Orleans. and he did that movie on Kennedy. And his son did some work on the DNA and the likelihood of Barack Obama. I know this sounds totally off the wall to most people, about the lookalikes of Ananakan, and even the children are lookalikes to Ananakan and the family back in Egypt. Very, very interesting that Barack Obama shows up as Pharaoh of Egypt, because you remember the horse race, the Triple Crown winner? American Pharaoh, I think was the name of the horse.
Right.
And that was, there were so many clues to that. I did a whole thing on the Prophetic Insider on American Pharaoh and its relationship to Barack Hussein Obama. And, and then I had that vision of Obama. I'm convinced he's coming back. I don't exactly know how they're going to do it, but this would indicate that, sweeping away the righteous with the wicked. There's coming a huge cleansing upon this planet. And after Obama and his minions have done their cleansing, God is going to do his cleansing. And then we start out with a new heaven and a new earth. So it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone, particularly that somebody like Obama would once again reign over. And I think he's behind an awful lot of this stuff anyway. I think he has been right along. And, this Obama is a mixture of a lot of different things. And he's very, very dangerous. But I am convinced he will come back. And this dovetails right into kind of the Manafort trial, and that's maybe why it's in there, is because some of the things they may have found out, and they may even have proof of, where Trump has denied everything, basically, and said, I didn't know anything about these payoffs, blah, blah, blah. Well, they might have tape recordings that would say otherwise. And, of course, you've got deep state, you've got a treasonous Republican and Democratic Party running Congress. They can impeach him anytime. And it's kind of odd that he shows up in this whole thing, which would indicate that they found something during the Manafort investigation and Cohen's investigation. I'm surprised Cohen's not in there. But they may have found some stuff they're just hiding. Who knows? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's incredible. Matter of fact, Garnett showed me a news piece that not only has Barack Obama been overseas doing his stuff behind the scenes, but now it appears that Valerie Jarrett, deeply connected to Iran, is also doing her stuff. There's a lot of treason going around, but the only thing that I have a problem with is the fact that the ones that are really committing the treason, they're not having a problem. It's just the ones that are calling them treasonous a little bit. I'll tell you what, and this kind of dovetails into the same thing with this censorship, where they are literally shutting down conservative and right-wing speech all over the country. I mean, this stuff is coming quick, and it started with Alex Jones, but now it's moving into, I saw where Hagman, they took down his live stream. I saw where, what's the guy that, I like him, Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, he's even having problems now, and they're cutting them off one at a time, and who knows when we have our heyday.
Well, as I have long thought, truth has to be trampled underfoot first, then outlawed second. And there's only a small minority of people who listen to the actual truth because people don't want to know what the actual truth is. And the actual truth is not at all pleasant. It's very, very hard to swallow. Treason against the nation is hard to swallow. And people just would prefer not to even believe it. And so the treasonous people get away with it. I mean, we send the same people back to Congress over and over and over again. That was the biggest mistake when they set up this nation, that they didn't put term limits in of 2 to 4 years, and then they could never serve again, and keep that cycle going so that there was no entrenchment. Same thing for bureaucrats. You want to work for the government, you can only work for 3-4 years, and then you're out, and which would prohibit an awful lot of this kind of thing from taking place. But it is what it is, and we are on the downfall of the United States. This is a communist coup. Trump can't stop it if he even wants to stop it. And who knows what the motive is? Who knows what he's been told? Want your family to live? Then play ball with us. That sort of thing. And they're not above assassinating a president. I mean, look at what happened to Kennedy and the attempt on Reagan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They'll kill anybody that gets in their way. The children of Cain run this planet, basically, and Satan over them, and that's not going to change until this whole thing comes to a close. And that's not, I don't think that's very far off. I mean, it's possible the Lord can put up his hand and say, no, we got another 10 years to wait, but it just doesn't look like it. When you look at the threats that are going on and all of the earth changes that are accelerating so rapidly, I don't think we got a lot of time left. What's your take on? I mean, that's an interesting code. I'm surprised Cohen is not in there, but maybe Manafort has even more information on Trump than anybody. Who knows? They're keeping all this very close to the vest.
Well, it's very interesting. Matter of fact, on my blog today, I put up something from the old Game of Thrones movies, and it was a flag that said winter is coming. And of course, in the movie Game of Thrones, winter is not a pleasant time, and there was a flag there with the Starks on it, and what most generally the New World Order, if you will, over Westeros in the movie, they decided to get rid of the only ones that were really doing the right thing and being pretty well righteous, and so they began an assassination plots against the entire family to assassinate and kill the entire family and erase the family from the face of the earth, if you will. But that's kind of interesting, and I noted that it appears in Washington, D.C., the same old thing seems to be going as we're going towards winter. So we'll just have to see. But I did notice what is interesting today. Can you imagine an illegal immigrant, alien, killed this girl, that was, the missing student, and,
yes.
They found her body in a field, and do you know what? The mainstream media, when they was asked about it, because they gave it no time at all, they said, well, that's only a local woman somewhere that was killed, and that's just Fox covering that. So, even though Fox is not generally fair and balanced anymore all that much, there are a lot of Trump haters there. It's interesting to note that it's very provable that the powers that be literally love the illegal folks more than they love America and the American people. But you know what, Stuart? It's a shame that the American people can't realize that.
Well, they don't understand they're at war. It's a literal, real war. And the enemy is the United Nations, and the enemy is Agenda 21/30/50. We are bringing in, and Trump has not stopped any of it. I've done some little research on it. These people are coming in, usually at night. They're being shipped all over the United States. Many of them, according to witnesses that have seen this, are of military age. They're young men, and this is exactly what Jeremiah the prophet said was happening. Our enemy really is the United Nations, which is a communist operation from start to finish. It operates under a communist charter, People have been warning about the UN for I don't know how many years. When it first came onto U.S. soil, people warned about it. But the American people have been dumbed down or they're too lazy to do anything about it, and thus God is just when He eliminates the American people. And, it's a hard thing to say, hard thing to stomach, but He's going to kill off the American people. And, I think this is why you cannot accept the blessings that we have received from the Lord. Turn your back on Him, give Him the finger, throw Him out of just about everything, and then expect He's going to blink or wink. I don't think so. We're going to be destroyed. People ought to read Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 50, 51, Revelation chapter 18 predominantly deals with the physical aspects of the nation of America. And then you have the spiritual side of it, which is Revelation chapter 17, mystery. And they just don't understand any of this. They're not even interested in any of it. And so the Lord is saying, okay, fine. You rejected my Son, the spirit of prophecy. You don't want anything to do with prophecy, so you don't even know what's happening around you. You don't even know who the players of the end times are. So tough tooties to you. And I can understand the Lord's attitude. And He's going to bring this nation down. And when this starts, and the judgments have already begun, but when it really starts to get, what do I say, nasty, woe unto the American people. And I'm not saying the American people basically are evil. I don't think they are. I think they're great people. But they have abandoned the Bible. They have abandoned Jesus Christ. They won't do what Jesus Christ told them to do. When the Bible says the Lord gave us His only Son to save the world, and Jesus Himself said, look, I didn't come to condemn the world. I came into the world to save it. Why? Well, because the world is condemned already. Everybody born on earth, once they get up to a legal age, are an enemy of the Lord, and they're going to be treated like that. So I don't know what the answer is, Larry. I've been trying to preach for the last 30 years, and it's like you're preaching to a blank wall. There are those who are listening and taking caution and getting under the wings of the Lord, but the vast majority are not. And, when this thing breaks out, I was reading an article about what if Trump gets into a war with Iran and how bad it'll be for Trump. Well, it won't be bad just for Trump. It'll be bad for the Christians and anybody associated with Trump. Don't forget, when Obama comes back into office, the killing machines will begin in earnest. And I think people really, it's going to be a really stark, horrible wake-up call. I mean, I've been dealing with negative news as you have for I don't know how many years. I get used to it. It doesn't, I try to shake it off. I cannot shoulder the troubles of the world. I can only report on the troubles of the world and hope people will see something's wrong with the human race. Terribly wrong. They need a redeemer. And you would think people would figure that one out. As a friend of mine said, why would UFOs fly 50 trillion light years to Earth just to rag on Jesus Christ and say he was a fake? You would think people would look at the name and say, well, why would anybody do that? And yet, if you go into the New Age or the UFO knots and their communications, and they're all fallen angels and demonic, they're all ragging on the Lord. He's a fake. It's not real. Forget about it. You would think that people would wonder, why are you attacking this one name? over all the other names on the planet Earth. Why are you attacking this one name? What is there about this one name that you're so hateful towards? And yet you as a police officer have seen how the spirit is rising for violence. And you've seen the criminal behavior of the human mind. I mean, people are, we're sick. We are very, very ill. Anyway, end of end of that. What do you think?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Stuart. And I don't know if you've watched any of these press briefings lately, but if you watch, I was trained to watch body signs, body movement and body signs.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watch these press briefings where poor old Sarah Huckabee Sanders has to get up there and answer questions to an outrageous audience of nutballs, it's shocking because when I watch the eyes, look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders' eyes. There's compassion there. There's, all kind of emotions. But, when you look at the ones that are asking her these stupid questions out there and ranting and raving, and it looks like insanity. I've seen people that are insane. You can see it in their eyes. And if nobody's ever done this, the next press briefing, watch the eyes closely of those people out there in the press area.
Mm-hmm.
It will blow your minds, some of the looks these eyes are giving, and it just clicks back into the fact, Stuart, this is also a spiritual war. We are in a war, and we've got mob rule in America in our streets almost every single day, and we live with it. We literally, as a nation, live with it. That's amazing to where we've come. But yet we've even got a press group in the White House that appear to be insane, Stuart.
Yeah, I just don't, people are basically spiritually, how do I say, ignorant, because they won't dive into why they're even here. They're not asking any questions. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Who put me here? What is all this? You'd think they'd ask a few questions. Then they might realize that you're right, that this is actually behind it all. It's spiritual warfare. And it manifests itself in the physical realm. It's just too bad. Nothing you can do about it. Nothing I can do about it. You just have to ride out the storm. Like Noah was told, there's a storm coming. He builds his ark. Our ark is Jesus Christ. And when the rains come, hopefully our ark will be absolutely secure. We don't have to worry about it if we're in Christ. And the word Jesus Christ is hated around the world now. And it's going to be even more so. And the persecutions have already actually begun. We're very fortunate in America because a lot of places Christians are just rounded up and killed violently, cruelly killed. So, yeah, we're very fortunate. Before we run out of time, massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions around the world, 7.3 quake in Venezuela. We went over that the last time, but now we've got activity in Etna and Stromboli, Krakatoa. And as I said before, folks, watch the volcanoes more than anything. Here's another headline, Larry. Over the last 7 days, our planet has been violently shaken by 144, interesting number, earthquakes. What else have you got along those lines?
Well, what's interesting, Stuart, we talked about it, but Dutch Sense actually did the computer programming and was able to prove that from the 8.2 earthquake in the Western Pacific, the antipodal turned out to be the 7.3 off Venezuela, and then they had a 6 following that, and we're having more. We've got a lot of big quakes going on, and at the same time, we just had a 6.2 off the west coast of the U.S., and they're really saying in the next few days to watch closely. There's a lot of movement, and a lot of it really deep movement, Stuart.
Yeah, they say it takes anywhere from 2 to, 6, 7 days for the antipodal quakes to begin to show up. Well, they're already showing up. We only had 2 days, and they were already beginning to show up. And we also got extreme weather all over the place. Worst floods in India's history. 400 dead, dozens missing, 1.2 million displaced, 40% more in the monsoon rains. We just, I saw that right up here in Wisconsin, Madison got dumped on 14 inches of rain, flooded all kinds of places.
Wow.
Now we got this one heading into Hawaii, the big island, like they haven't had enough problems with the volcanoes.
Yeah, that's very true, Stuart. What's interesting also is we've got a lot of activity going on in the Middle East right now.
Yes,
a
go
lot
ahead
of build-up, military build-up over there. We need to watch closely Israel and Syria and that region. Iran seems to be making moves now and moving a lot of troops and massing troops in Iraq close to the Syrian border. So we've got to watch that. Plus, at the same time, Stuart, and I'd like your opinion on this, we're getting more and more reports that out of North Korea that they're up to something and ready for war. And Xi of China is making a trip to meet with Kim Jong-un personally. And at the same time, Stuart, Russia's moving masses of troops and war materials towards the Yellow Sea. So what do you think?
I think we're heading for war. I don't think there's any question about it. It's only a question as to when the Lord is going to allow it. I know that the big powers that be and all that, they forget all about the God factor, but the Lord is in total control of all this. They just don't know it. But when he gives the nod, this thing is going to go, and it's going to go very, very rapidly. Several prophecies that have been very, very interesting. One from an old lady who was 90 years old, gave a prophecy, and everything she said has come true. She says just before World War III breaks out that the entire church will be raptured and taken out of here. And if you go into the Bible, sudden destruction is clearly a reference to the rapture of the church. I know people don't believe that, but they're going to. It doesn't make any difference whether you believe it, and it doesn't matter when it occurs. But it does appear as though World War III is going to be so brutal and kill so many people. In fact, I think it's David Wilkinson said that the Lord uses World War III as the nukes are coming in on the United States. The rapture actually takes place just then. So anyway, yeah, we're headed for trouble, and I don't think there's any question about it. I hope people have prepared and are ready for trouble of any kind, because we got a lot of traitors right here. And when this thing goes into martial law or whatever, look out. It may be your next door neighbor that arrests you, puts on a uniform, and there are a lot of people in here who would like to settle a whole bunch of what they call perceived wrongs, and they will be turning you in. So this is all very, very interesting. It displays human nature. I've long thought that the tribulation period is God's method of displaying for all to see the real nature of the human race. Anyway, any final word, Larry? I should have done more than 30 minutes, but we'll do that Friday.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just going to mention that there's a mystery Russian satellite operating above the Earth, and there are reports in the background that the U.S. has sent up their space shuttle to check it out, but they are believed, and reports are indicating it is a space weapon. So people just need to keep a heads up.
Yep. Well, folks, remember that we are surrounded by enemies. They're lying to us. They're not our friends. They intend to kill us all. And I guess you have to. There is no escape, folks, from planet Earth. Nobody gets out of here alive. You're either under the wings of the Lord or you're not. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you Friday, and we'll do a much longer show. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. So good night, everyone. Thanks a lot, Larry. Take care.